Li 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 ya. Ay, li 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 ya. Li 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 ya.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you all, and welcome back all away. Tonight I would like to speak about not the weekly parasha, which is Beshalach, but rather Parashat Bo, which is last week's parasha, because I found something that was really fascinating for me and I would like to share it with you. So I couldn't wait till next year because I was so excited about it, I decided to do it this year. In Parashat Bo, which is in the midst of the Makot, the plagues, about to execute Mitzrayim, which is this week's parasha, Parashat Beshalach, there's a halt, there's a stop in the middle, in Perek Yud Bet, chapter 12, when in the midst of all this excitement and everything that is slowly but surely happening in front of Am Yisrael, the eyes of Am Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, God starts giving Am Yisrael mitzvot. And what is the first mitzvah that he gives them? Rosh Chodesh. Kiddush HaChodesh. The sanctification of the moon. So, we'll look at the Psukim, page 348 in the Art Scroll. ויאמר השם אל משה ואל אהרון בארץ מצרים לאמור, Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt saying, החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. This month, we're talking about the month of Nisan, is the beginning of all months. ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. This is the first month of all months. And by the way, when we count, we learn from this pasuk, that's very important, that when the Torah counts, it says, for example, B'chodesh HaShevi'i, the 7th month, we don't start counting it from the month of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah, but rather from the month of Nisan. So whenever you find the Torah or the scriptures, the number of the month, how do you start counting? By which month? Month of Nisan. Why? Because God already said that this is the month, the first month of all months. Okay? Now, we'll analyze the pasuk in a few minutes and we'll learn something from it. But the fact is, some questions arise from this pasuk. And this is, the first mitzvah, as we said, that is given is Kiddush HaChodesh, Kiddush Levana, the sanctification of the moon. Why does God choose to begin the transmission of mitzvot with the technical mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh? It's extremely technical, by the way. If you look at the Mishnah and in Talmud, how do you define it's the beginning of the month? It's a whole science, but it's extremely technical. Question is, why would God start giving mitzvot by giving this mitzvah? There are mitzvot that were less technical, but I would say that Bnei Israel, Am Yisrael would be more drawn to other mitzvot. Shabbat, Ve'afta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, and so on and so forth. There's many other mitzvot that the Torah could have found, whether it is ben Adam lachavero, between us and other human beings, or between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that would fit more into the beginning of Kabbalat HaMitzvot, the yoke of Torah and Mitzvot. So the question is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu start with this mitzvah?
That's, I guess, connected to the holidays.
It's connected to the holidays. Okay.
So Shabbat is 7 days. We don't have to count the month.
Okay.
But the holidays is important.
So why is it so? Fine. So great.
The calendar is very important.
Okay.
We can't miss like Yom Kippur or Pesach or Rosh Hashanah or Shavuot.
Okay, so the whole foundation
Yeah.
of Am Israel is surrounded around the calendar, the moon. Okay, very good. Nice idea.
Well, also, it's until now Hashem told them all the chagim and the things. Now He's giving it to them, so it's in their control. It's not in
Oh.
Hashem control.
Oh, very good. Okay, so we'll look at that. So there are many answers that, yeah,
Maybe the beginning of the time for the Jewish people,
beginning of the time for the Jewish people.
because without time you cannot have anything.
Oh,
You
very
cannot
good.
Calculate calendars and holidays
Oh.
and absolutely anything.
Excellent. Okay, so the idea of time. Excellent. Very good idea. Beautiful ideas around the table. Okay? So let's look. There's many commentators and many ideas, many opinions. I'll share some of them. So one of them is, and you can look at your copies, A, in Judaism there is a central foundation which is man's partnership with God. It's important to know that even in the creation of the world, we became partners with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with God. It says in the creation of the world, Asher bara Elohim la'asot. God created the world la'asot, to do. For who to do? Not for HaKadosh Baruch Hu necessarily,
For us.
but for us. Which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, the whole creation of the world was in order for us as human beings to become partners, Kavyachol, if you want to put it that way, with the Almighty, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is why Hashem chose the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, sanctifying the new moon, to emphasize the importance of this concept. Why? Because who is going to decide from that point and on when the new month will begin? Not HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not God, but us, human beings. It's a beautiful concept. How HaKadosh Baruch Hu trusted man and gave him this authority to be able to decide when Rosh Chodesh is going to be, but it's not just Rosh Chodesh, but the whole cycle of the holidays will be according to what a Beit Din will decide. It's very powerful. That means that if a Beit Din says tomorrow is Yom Kippur, we don't argue with that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, agrees to that. Imagine that. Think about it for a minute. It's a deep idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees with that. Even, I'll take it a step forward. Even if HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that Yom Kippur is another day, but a Beit Din decided, a celestial Beit Din decided, or an earthly Beit Din decided that this is going to be Rosh Chodesh, or this is going to be Yom Kippur, that's the end of the story. HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees to that. Why? Because he gave the authority to human beings, to men, to decide when Rosh Chodesh will be. Yeah.
It's like what was it I was going to say?
Forgot?
It's like the halachot. Lo bashamayim hi.
Very good.
It's what we harov. We decide.
We decide. But everything, the foundation starts from here.
From there. Yeah.
From the first mitzvah. From the first mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives, He wants us to learn a great lesson. The lesson is, you are partners with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with God, don't forget that. And you have the authority to decide and to teach, to give over these rules that you are going to be making. And this is agreed and blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by God. Okay, so I'll share with you some commentators that speak about it. It says the following in the Talmud Bavli: this month shall be for you, is given over to you, the Sanhedrin, okay?
42.
Right? This month shall be for you. Moshe was unable to understand the point in the moon cycle at which sanctification should take place, and therefore God turned Moshe's attention heavenward at the appropriate moment and said, when the moon reaches this phase, see it and sanctify it. In other words, what Rashi says, he quotes a Mechilta, and the Mechilta says that he taught Moshe Rabbeinu. When it says Ze, when the Torah ever says, whenever you find the word Ze in the Torah, it means that something was
He showed.
showed. In this case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, pointed to Moshe, because Moshe didn't know exactly how to sanctify the month, what's the shape, what's going to happen. So he showed him exactly, so he told him, now this is the moment that you should look towards the heaven and follow my instructions. And this is the way that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to transmit this teaching that he got from God, from generation to generation, till the time of the Sanhedrin, and they were the ones, through the testimony of Edim, of witnesses who used to come, used to define and say, this is the beginning of the month. Another interesting point that the Rambam makes is, to Bedin the matter is given. When Bedin sanctifies and establishes a specific day as Rosh Chodesh, that is the day which is Rosh Chodesh. Pretty simple, the Rambam says. Bedin says it, that's it. You can't argue anymore. Now, the Talmud in Yerushalmi says the following. Talmud Yerushalmi says that this is pretty fascinating when I was reading it. The heavenly angels approach the Holy One, blessed be He, and ask, Master of the world, when is Rosh Hashanah? God responds, why are you asking me? You and I must inquire of the earthly court. Imagine that. If the earthly court declares today's Rosh Hashanah, the Holy One, blessed be He, proclaims to the angels, erect the podium, call the prosecuting attorneys, call the defense attorneys. My children have declared today is Rosh Hashanah. Imagine that. This is powerful. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives 100%. He says, it's yours. You are going to decide and I'm going to obey your ruling. Why? Because you are partners with me. And since you are partners, I'm giving you the green light to decide when it's going to be Rosh Hashanah or anything else. If the earthly court determines to delay the holiday, the Holy One, blessed be He, declares to the heavenly angels, remove the podium, remove the prosecuting attorneys, remove the defense attorneys. My children have decided to postpone the holiday for a day. It's unbelievable. Imagine that. But this is the authority that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God gave the Bedin, the Sanhedrin, to be able and to decide. And this is coming from where? From the first mitzvah that Am Israel got as they are about to exit, to leave Mitzrayim. You know, this reminds me of a story, just the idea of authority. And later on, after there was no more Sanhedrin, this story took place, a true story that happened. I think it's around, 150 years ago. There was a great rabbi by the name of, he wrote a book by the name of Nodab Yehuda. So the Nodab Yehuda was a great scholar, very respected. And what happened once, he was walking back from the synagogue home, and he sees this child crying. So he goes over to him, he tells him, why are you crying? He says, because my stepfather is a baker, and he gave me some baked goods to sell. And as I was taking them and carrying them in the street, they fell, got wounded. And if I'm not going to give him the money, and he knows how much money I'm supposed to give him back, he's going to be extremely upset. So Nodab tells him, how much is it? So he tells him an amount. He takes it out of his pocket and says, here, have a good day. The child is so happy, thank you very much. Of course. And this child wasn't Jewish. They gave him money, went home. Years later, 25, 30 years later, There's a knock on the door of the Rabbi Yehuda, who's an elderly man. Opens the door and he sees this young man. Says, "Hello, how may I help you?" Tells him, "You remember me?" He said, "Who are you?" And he tells him the story that happened 30 years ago. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember the story. How you've been? Oh, you've grown up. Oh, whatever. How may I help you today?" He says, "Well, I came to help you because I want to pay you back for what you did 30 years ago. What's happening? It was Pesach time." So he tells him, "Yeah, you remember my father-in-law? I told you he's a baker. And my stepfather is a baker. Yeah. So my stepfather and all the bakers in town, usually when it's Motzai Pesach, what do? They come to the Jewish community to sell chametz. All the Jewish community is going to buy chametz. Fine. And just for you to know, the bread that they were selling at that time was 100% kosher, so they used to buy from them. But what happened this year, my stepfather convinced all the bakeries in town, all the bakers, to poison the bread. And therefore I'm coming to you just to let you know that whenever is Motzei Pesach, it was a day later, don't buy the bread." Now, the Rabbi Yehuda gets this information. What is he going to do?
Tell everybody.
He's going to tell everybody. That's going to make a whole big kerfuffle. They're going to find out who did it, whatever it is. It's not going. He thinks, and look at the brilliant idea that he has. He makes an announcement in town. He says, "Everyone, all the Jews in town, come to the big synagogue. I have an important announcement to make." And Rabbi Yehuda says something. Everyone, comes. They come to the big Bet HaKnesset, and then Rabbi Yehuda says, "I have some news to tell you." And the news is that this year, for some reason, we miscalculated when Pesach starts, and really we started a day earlier. So we have to add 1 day to Pesach, which means instead of 8 days, we're going to celebrate 9 days. Okay. Rabbi said so. The rabbi said so. Okay. Everyone will agree to it. So on the 8th day, Motzei Pesach, the bakers come. They come to the center of the Jewish quarter, waiting for everyone to come and buy their baked goods fresh. It smells good. No one comes. What's going on here? They get upset. We just baked it for the Jews, and they're not buying. Imagine we're going to lose money and whatever. It's a whole big thing. And then this guy, the stepfather of this man, the young man who came to the Rabbi Yehuda, says, "Oh, what's going on?" He goes to the governor of the town or whatever it is. Summon the Jews and I want to see the rabbi, and it doesn't make any sense. They're going to pay us. And they bring the Rabbi Yehuda. He says, "What do you have to say?" And then he says, with all due respect, there's no problem. I'm not sure, but how about if the baker who baked this food, this bread, takes a little bite of it? And obviously all the bakers don't want to take any bite from it because it was poisoned, and the truth comes out. But the idea is, why am I bringing this story? Rabbi Yehuda had this authority to declare at his time. We're not talking about thousands of years ago, but whatever, 150 years ago. But you know what? We're going to add 1 more day to the calendar, and we're going to have 9 days of Pesach. So this is one idea of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu started the giving of the mitzvot with the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, the sanctification of the moon of the month. Rav Yosef Ber Soloveitchik has another fascinating idea about it. And he says that the fundamental distinction separating the free man from the slave is the control of time. If you are free, you could control time. If you are a slave, you can't control time. Someone else controls the time for you.
So we're all slaves.
Oh, very good. So we are slaves. How does it work? So he elaborates. An amazing idea, and I'll share it with you. So before I do that, another idea is Rav Yitzchak Mirsky, in his book Hegyonei Halacha, also continues on with this idea, and he speaks about it, and he proves it, this point from the Haggadah. The Haggadah, it says, Yachol meRosh Chodesh. Maybe we should start everything, all the idea of Pesach, everything from Rosh Chodesh. So Rav Mirsky asks a question, he says, where's Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh is not Pesach. Pesach is in the midst of the month, on the 15th of the month. So why would you start it from Rosh Chodesh? And he brings the same idea. The idea is what? That since Rosh Chodesh was given in the beginning of the month, and the idea that we were not slaves anymore, so it has to do with time. That is why this mitzvah was given. It has to do with the fact that Am Yisrael were coming out of slavery. If you're coming out of slavery, that means that you are free. You're in control of time. And that is why this mitzvah was given. Now, Rav Soloveitchik teaches that as Jews, we have to be controlling time. Okay? And how? We have to recognize 3 dimensions of time: retrospection, anticipation, and appreciation. And I'll quote what he says. It's very interesting. He says like this. Retrospection refers to man's ability to re-experience the past, to feel deeply that which is only a memory, to transport an event of the distant past into a creative living experience of the present. So basically what you have to do, you have to take your past and try to bring it into life, in the present. That's one idea. That's one point, retrospection. Second one is anticipation. Anticipation is man's projection of visions and aspirations into the future. Indeed, his present life is regulated in expectation of the fulfillment of these dreams. His present is shaped by his vision of the future. So again, it's control. You could be in the present, but craft your future. So that is anticipation. And appreciation embraces the present as a precious possession, as an inherently worthy. Retrospection and anticipation are significant only in as so far as they transform the present in every fraction of a second. Visions can be realized or destroyed. So a man, claims Rav Soloveitchik, has the ability of controlling time. How? By knowing what to do with time. How to use time. Right? Someone once told me the following. He said that if you want something to be done, you have to ask the busiest person to do it. Why? Because if he's busy, it means that he's using his time. And if he's using his time, he's going to, when you ask him to do something, he will do it. That means that such a person is controlling time. And this is so important. And this is what Rav Soloveitchik is saying. He's saying that a person has a Jew especially, has the ability of controlling his time. There's a story that I shared with some of you quite a while ago about a certain scholar, Talmid Chacham in Yerushalayim, I forgot the name, but anyways, who went through the Talmud hundreds of times. So it wasn't a big deal for him. However, once he made a siyum on the whole Shas, the entire Talmud. So his family, his children and entourage, his students were a little bit surprised. Why? Because it's not the first time that the rabbi has been through the cycle, and he doesn't make a big deal out of it. Why is he making a big deal out of this particular siyum? So they asked him. He said, this siyum is very precious, very, very dear to me. This particular siyum. Why? Because this siyum I did while I was waiting for the doctor's appointment and this and that. I wasn't wasting time. But I was doing at that time, the 5 minutes here, the 10 minutes there, the 3 minutes here. I was with the Talmud and I was learning. So again, it's the idea of using time properly. When someone uses time and he really makes sure that every moment is precious, that means that he is in control of time. And this is what we are able to achieve. And again, coming back to the Kiddush HaChodesh, this is why this first mitzvah was given, to show, to teach Am Yisrael, as you are coming out of enslavement, you are free people. Freedom means that you are in control of time. Okay?
Rabbi,
Yes.
that's connected to the month. But we have, you can't separate mathematics
Yes.
with a lot of things. God gave us a specific time. When is Rosh Hashanah, when is Yom Kippur, and it tells you on the 10th of the month, on the 15th of the month. And so we're talking about just the month,
Yes.
not the rest of the holidays.
True, but the fact is, how are you going to determine when is the 15th of the month? Who is going to determine that? Not God.
But
Human beings.
Didn't they start from the beginning and it's recorded somehow? And
Well-
it goes from one generation to another?
True, but the fact is, again, it was transmitted from Moshe Rabbeinu, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu to the next generation, and so on and so forth. But bottom line, who is the one who decided through the generations when will be the beginning of every month?
Us.
So which means that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it's going to be on the 10th of the month, of the 7th month, which is the month of Tishrei, you should fast because it's Yom Kippur, who decides when Yom Kippur will be? Not HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he just gave us a time.
Yeah.
The time is controlled by who? By the Sanhedrin.
Because if you're gonna say this month starts
I
now,
understand, but you can't start Yom Kippur on another day.
no, but it's not. Because
But who
if you-
defines when is the
And
day?
Passover on the 15th, not on the
No.
18th.
That's
no.
true, but who defines when it's going to be the 15th?
God gave us the dates.
There you have, well, God gave us the dates, but who's the one who's going to define when the date will be?
Because
The Sanhedrin.
I understand, but
That's
there is
it.
a point that the issue of when you see the Luna,
Exactly.
you need two witnesses,
That's
Mm.
correct.
that's
and
it.
sometimes you have 1 month of 2 days only the
The-
Rosh Chodesh, and sometimes 1 day.
Exactly, depending on the moon.
Right.
If it was full moon and so on and so for sure. If full month or not full month and so on and so
Right,
forth. Yeah, 100%.
You didn't have the telescopes at the time.
That's true, but they had witnesses.
Right,
Eh?
2.
Exactly.
Or 1. I mean
Exactly.
2 and could be, that's why I have 2 days and 1 day.
Right.
But then we
Exactly.
get to Jerusalem and
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But everything was given to who? To the Jewish people, to the Sanhedrin, to be able to control and to decide. Okay. Another idea is Kiddush HaChodesh also sets a rule that halacha is determined by man. Very important. So the beginning of the giving of the mitzvot, as Am Yisrael is about to leave Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them a very important rule and teaching, which is, you are the ones who are going to be ruling for Am Yisrael. Very important for you to know. The same way that God gave the authority to men to determine the beginning of the month, God gave men the authority to determine halacha. However, the establishment of halacha requires expertise. So that is why Kadosh Baruch Hu starts from the beginning of the giving of the mitzvot. He gives them this rule that you have to turn to the experts among your people to ask, what is Dvar Hashem? What does God is asking from you? These people who are experts will be able to give you, transmit you whatever they got from their teachers, and their teachers from their teachers, coming back when to where, to who? To Moshe Rabbeinu.
Now, because you're alluding to it in so many ways, I have to ask the question that I wrote about half an hour ago. That gives a lot of power to a few that rule over an entire nation. And we're talking about the Sanhedrin, so we're talking about a different court, not a court that can be assembled today because we don't have the temple, right?
That is correct.
It's a power that is perpetual. You will die with it, that's why the second temple fell. Is what I'm alluding to, is the fact that you become quite corrupt, because I have the power, and so what I'm trying to say, could that have been dealt differently?
Depending on God. God wanted it to be dealt that way.
So God wanted us to be God wanted for the corruption to happen.
No, power
Wow.
doesn't mean corruption.
That's already
That's
the freedom.
okay. That's a choice that we made.
No, but that's a choice that we made, that God made, knowing what was going to happen.
But again, it's the choice that that every Jew or every person.
Not every
is
Jew, those specific, and everybody else is paying for them.
Fine, 100%.
And there was no way that the Am could have changed their minds.
Fine. You're right.
So it was God that decided this.
God foresaw that it's going to happen. However, it was their choice. We can't put God into this responsibility. It's a choice that we have and we make.
But
Okay,
if,
yeah.
if you
It's
allow me,
actually-
you mentioned 3 points here: retrospection, anticipation, and appreciation.
Yes.
If the Jews from the Sanhedrin didn't appreciate the maker of time, because why do you have time? What do you do with your time? You have 100 blessings to say during the day. You have all these mitzvot that you do during the day. When you eat something, you have to say thank you for what you're eating, because it's as if you're stealing, right? So if you bless the time, you're recognizing that the time, it's not yours, it's someone else's. So these Jews from I assume, they didn't bless the time. They didn't appreciate the time that Hashem gave them, and therefore they set up the following of
Right.
it.
But if you see, for example, how modern society is built, and believe me, I don't defend it in any way. Like, I know that it's corrupt in 1,000 other ways, but how modern society
More
is
than
built, it's got checks and auto checks and checks over checks that if you made a mistake, maybe you should consider it again. And so, and there's the police, and then there's the judge, and there's this court and that court, and it goes up and up and up and up and up. And the last court is, there's checks over checks. On this system, who checks the high court?
God.
But God punishes only after you've passed away.
Fine.
So the whole Am Yisrael is suffering because by birth you got that position. It's not that you earned it. And we saw what happened with those that by birth got there. Like, it's just we've seen what happens.
100%.
We've all suffered.
We are all in the same boat. Don't forget that. As
We're
Jews.
not.
Yes, as Jews. Kol Israel arevim ze lazeh. The fact that we are responsible for each other's actions, and if someone acts in a inappropriate way, that could have a lot of
Repercussions to the rest of us.
Exactly.
But whatever it is, a lot of innocent people really getting that because
Yes.
of the other people. I mean, God can see that. Is it the right thing? Hey, a lot of people can lose faith because of that.
Fine,
They
but
do. I
again,
got to get punished because someone else.
it's a choice that a Jew, and that's what we have to
It's not a
understand.
choice.
What?
Where is my freedom of choice there?
There is a choice. That's your freedom of choice. To
Where
make-
is my freedom of choice?
Oh.
If he made
Oh.
it wrong, where is my freedom of choice
Okay.
to suffer for him?
Okay, but the fact is, I look at it, I'll give an extreme case, right? When someone pushes a button that triggers, right, a bomb, right? You could have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who could suffer from this person, one person who did it. The same thing with Am Yisrael. The fact is, the Nefesh Chaim, Rav Chaim Volozhin, in the beginning of his book, says the following. He says, when a Jew acts and does something, he has to realize that the action that he made could have an impact on the entire world, for good, for bad. A Jew has the ability of increasing the light in the world or bringing more darkness to the world. So every action that you do, that I do, that each one of us does, could have a great impact, not just on our community or our family or on us, the entire world. So this is, I think this will answer your question. Yes, it does have an impact. And Jews, because of that, had to go through whatever they had to go through because of the action of a few people, of the whatever they did.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
who chose the kne- yeah,
The Sanhedrin?
the Sanhedrin?
Sanhedrin, sorry.
Yeah, who chose them?
Well, there was a certain time, I believe, that there was the Urim
judges?
the Urim V'Tumim.
Oh, it wasn't Am Israel.
No, it was the Urim V'Tumim. It was, you used to see, the Kohen used to see on Israel, breastplate.
Hmm.
And the Fizeh used to choose from different segments of the
Knesset,
people. 100%.
From Israel.
Sanhedrin.
Huh?
From Israel.
Yes,
Mm.
100%. Okay. But the fact is, just to continue on with this idea, there's a famous Gemara in Masechet Shabbat speaking about Chanukah. Where the Gemara is asking, the Gemara says, when you light the Ner Chanukah, you have to say bracha, which is what Asher Kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik Ner Chanukah, or Ner Shel Chanukah. Right? You have to let God sanctified us and gave us this mitzvah of lighting the candle of Chanukah. The Gemara asks a very good question, an obvious question. V'hechan tzivanu. Where did God command us? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that you have to light the Chanukah candles. How do you know? Gemara answers, one of the answers the Gemara gives. It says in the Torah, She'al avicha v'yagircha zekenecha v'yom ruach. The Torah says, God said, in His Torah, you have to ask zekenecha, the elders, v'yom ruach, and they will instruct you. Which means that God gave the authority to Am Israel, to have a Sanhedrin, that will give them certain mitzvot, for example, Chanukah, or even lighting Shabbat candles, or the brachot that we say on the food.
Purim.
All this is
Purim.
Purim, exactly. All these are midrabbanan, are rabbinic mitzvot. How do they have the authority to give us these mitzvot? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't write the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the authority to do so. And that's what we have to do. And this also, by the way, all this idea starts from Kiddush HaChodesh. Beginning of Am Israel, the creation of Am Israel, the foundation of Am Israel is built upon the idea that God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gave authority to us to teach halakha and to rule halakha from generation to generation. Right? As it says in the Gemara as well, it says that Shmuel Bedoro, that Shmuel was the authority for his generation. Every generation has certain people who have certain chachamim who have the authority to give the halakha to that particular generation. And all is agreed and blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'ikar. So this is another idea. We'll see a few other lessons. Other lessons are learned from the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh. One idea is Rabbi Yehuda Levi in the Kuzari and Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch teach that the moon is the only celestial sphere that undergoes an apparent level in the heavens. Okay, each Rosh Chodesh is a time of renewal for each and every Jew. The idea is the following. Am Israel is about to leave Mitzrayim. It's a new era in Bnei Israel, in Am Israel. They went through a big, dark time, and they see the light, they're starting to see the light in the end of the tunnel. as Jews, every month we have a mitzvah of Kiddush HaLevana or Birkat HaLevana.
Hallel.
Right? Hallel. Right? When we go out, we see the moon, right? From the 7th till the 15th of the month, and we have to say a bracha. What's the connection? How is it connected to us? The idea is that when we say it, the same way that the moon has a renewal, a monthly cycle, it's a monthly renewal. As a Jew, I have to think about when I'm having some hardships and things are not going well. There's a renewal. It's a cycle. Everything is starting again. The same way that Am Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim and it was a new cycle, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is helping them, He's taking them out of slavery. Same thing with us Jews. The fact is, history proves it to us over and over again that as Jews, as a nation, we went through a lot of hardships. But at the end of the hardships, ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. There's light. There's something hopeful. Because without this hope, we won't be able to live as Am Yisrael. We won't be able to exist as Am Yisrael. And all is learned, this idea is learned from what? From the Levana, from the moon. So as Am Yisrael is coming out of Mitzrayim to receive the Torah, to become officially a nation, Kadosh Baruch Hu is sending them this message. This is the first mitzvah that I'm giving you. You are coming out and you'll see the light. But this light will not stay forever. You'll have hardships, you'll have a Holocaust, you'll have persecutions, you'll have inquisitions. You'll go through that, but remember in your mind the teaching of the moon. There's a light, there's a new cycle, there's a renewal, and therefore remember that and cherish the fact that you have this idea that Be'ezrat Hashem, God willing, even though you're going through hardships, God willing, you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Is there any commentary on the fact that the Jews left Egypt without the light of a moon then? Because if it's new moon, there's no moon, right?
Okay, but
So how did they see where they were going?
well, there was
It's the desert, right?
but there was a light. There was a light. Amud Esh, it says in the Torah clearly,
Amud Esh,
right?
yeah,
The Amud
Amud
Esh
Esh.
Balayla, right? It says that at night they had a pillar of fire, and during the day they had clouds. So something was accompanying them. Yeah.
But Rabbi, you said Jewish people, but actually sounds like a time-related mitzvah. In this case, women
Right, and therefore,
they may not bless the moon.
fine. You don't have to bless the moon.
No, I just wanted to
Right.
show that.
You're right. 100%. You're right.
It's,
Right. Ishto kegufo. Right. Someone is married. Right. Or the fact is, it's partnership between men and women. Yeah. Now the Aruch HaShulchan also says the following: that the beginning of each month, sorry, spelling mistake, represents darkness that will eventually turn into light. History has proven over and over again, we spoke about that Jews went through deep darkness to find a shining light at the end of their journey. Now, one more thing is,
Wait. What is the shining light that we're talking about then?
well, that the fact is redemption.
That we're still alive?
That you're still alive, or there's redemption, or there's something that happens through tragedy, even though sometimes we don't see it. But later generations could see something. There's always a hope that the Jew has to live with. At the darkest moments where sometimes we don't, it's extremely difficult to see it, but there's always something, there's always a light, there's always a hope for the Jew. And one more thing is the phase of the moon sensitizes us to the value of life's passages. By marking Rosh Chodesh at the beginning of the lunar cycle, rather than its height, which is the middle of it, Halakha underscores that the journey towards a goal is often more important than goal itself. Okay, so that's an important lesson as well. That as we are getting into the goal, we have to understand, and Halakha teaches us that the goal in this case is to see the full moon, which is the middle of the month, but going through the cycle and understanding it and
The
going through all
process.
the process, the whole technicality, when Rosh Chodesh will start, when is the new moon, the witnesses coming to the to the Sanhedrin and so on and so forth, is very important because that brings us to the goal, and therefore it's much more important many times, very often, more than the goal itself. And that is why, with all these teachings, that is why Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give Moshe Rabbeinu and Am Yisrael the first mitzvah as the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, because this had a lot of fundamental ideas that were extremely important for Am Yisrael to learn as they were about to come out of Mitzrayim and to become a nation. So I wish you all a Laila Tov. Thank you very much.
חזק וברוך.
Very good.
יש לך דף שאני...
Trililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililil li 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 li